Welcome back to Safas Unscripted. As you guys can see, there's no Brett Burns, there's no Bria van Herbspook, but we got the man, the face of Rugbypass. We got John Okafor in the studio. John, tell the people what's up.
What's up, John Okafor? You might have seen me on Rugbypass's TikTok. I don't know where the chats come from being the face of Rugbypass, but if you see me there, I'm the guy that's running the lives, and you might see me at a rugby event in somewhere near you. So how you doing, casual?
Yeah, all good, man. As we said before the podcast started, like it's always better getting someone from up north to help us out with podcasts like these, because obviously you guys watch the game way more in depth. You know more of the players. Like I could see the half of the English squad and not know who it is because we don't follow the Prem. Same with like even the top 14 when it comes to the French team. We only know the big names. We don't even get broadcasting rights to the top 14. So it's always much better getting someone from up north. But we're going to jump straight into it. France, Ireland, initial thoughts. What were you thinking before the game? And then what were you thinking during the game, seeing that absolute battering, 17-38 to Ireland?
Yeah. So before the game, the billing, when they released the fixtures and like who's playing who when, and opening night was France Ireland, I know the organizers knew what they were doing because that was the World Cup final the world wanted but never got. So when they did it, I was thinking, right, we're gonna really like settle this. Like, who's number one in the world? I thought it was gonna be like we're gonna settle this and like we're gonna find out what's going on. Then the reality of it was kind of anticlimactic. From minute one, Ireland were in a different stratosphere to France. And I will say this now, one man doesn't make a team, but whoever signed off letting Dupont go before the Six Nations, and I don't know why they let him do that, because France just looked at sometimes lackluster, directionless. They didn't have that sort of X factor, that flair we became accustomed to knowing. And Mr. Inevitable, Damien Penaud, still got on the score sheet. I think he's the best winger in the world. I will stick my neck on the line and say that I do believe Damien Penaud is the best winger in the world right now. He's try-scoring form for Bordeaux. I think he's at as well. It's just unbelievable at the moment, and he's in the form of his life. But on the wider, speaking of the French squad, I was really disappointed. Ireland, on the other hand, they're a team that have no World Cup hangover. They've settled their hurt, and I just can't see a team beating that Irish team at the moment. I think they could be the first nation to do back-to-back Grand Slams. I think it's a real possibility now.
I mean, Ireland were absolutely brilliant, and I don't know if you watched the Full Contact docuseries on Netflix, but like that first 20 minutes of Ireland reminded me of their coach and like a scene on it where he's like, "Stop fucking kicking the ball, stop mucking around with the ball," and that's exactly what they did. They just they were nowhere in the game. They were lucky to only be down by the amount of points that they were down and be kind of, I wouldn't say in the game, but still like there was some hope that they could get away with at least a draw about 15 minutes out. Because you could see maybe because they were piling on a bit of pressure by 15 minutes out. And if they got a try there, the game could have been on 7 points difference. They could have still gotten away with a draw or whatever. But they were shocking, in my opinion. Now, the thing is, like, would you say it was because Ireland were that brilliant or they were that shambolic? I just think you have to give respect to Ireland. Like, on this channel, we haven't given a lot of respect to Ireland because, of course, you know about the banter between us and Ireland. But that was a proper way to bounce back because, obviously, their previous game was the loss against New Zealand. And I don't agree with everyone saying they choked in the World Cup. I think they just got beaten by the better team on that night. But this was the game that should have been the third and fourth place playoff. And what a way to just dismantle the French team. Because before this weekend started, I thought I had a fair prediction in saying whoever plays home is going to be the winner of the game. And it's going to be a tight game either way. They just maybe eat humble pie for a fair prediction.
Yeah, same. I was like that. I thought playing in Marseille, the hurt of the World Cup, I thought that's going to be the thing that's going to galvanize that French squad to really turn up. Like, if there was a game to play on emotion, that would have been the game. You got structure, but just turn up for the occasion more than anything. And I was just looking at the French team and was like, There was no emotion. There was no passion.
So lackluster.
So lackluster. And it's really weird. And it's like Ireland have kicked on from the quarterfinal exit, and France have regressed to the French side of like the early 2010s. I was just like, hold on a minute.
Yeah, it almost feels like Ireland have a bit more hunger after the World Cup.
Exactly.
Like they almost felt like their positioning on the World Cup, where they ranked, was like a disservice to them, and they want to prove a point. They came out and said, listen, we want to set like almost the best Grand Slam or the most dominating Grand Slam that we've ever seen. It. That's the way it felt watching that game. If you look at the guys that just stood out, Joe McCarthy, wow. Because people were talking about James Ryan being one of the best locks in the world. He's not getting into that team with Joe McCarthy and Ty Burn there at the moment.
Joe McCarthy, and he plays. I believe he plays at Munster.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and you think Munster, when this is all said and done, are going to have Joe McCarthy and RG Snyman in the second row. Oh my God! No, Joe McCarthy. I heard his name. Yeah, say again.
He's 22.
Yeah, I heard his name a few times. I don't want to get too excited, but I heard his name a few times, and I'll be honest, I don't really follow much Irish rugby outside Leinster because they dominate the news really. And I heard his name, I was like, okay, cool. And when I watched him play on Friday, I was like, if you wanted a game to announce yourself to Test match rugby, and you wanted a performance, that was the performance that said, look, Lions is next year. I'm putting my hand up, like he's telling Farrell, like, don't forget about me. I'm here now. I'm 22.
If you want to think about like the perfect debut, and especially for a lock, what could he have done more? Like he was sensational. I mean, France couldn't win their own line out 5 meters away from Ireland's goal. It was insane. He was absolutely brilliant. And if you think about it, right, we all talk about how Leinster kind of dominate the Irish team. But if you look at 4 standout players for Ireland, most of them are Leinster players. So you look at Joe McCarthy, you're looking at Nash that played on the wing. I think Peter O'Mahony was absolutely brilliant. And then obviously Jack Crowley had a very good game for his first start in the Six Nations. I don't think he was world-class like most people say. I think he made a couple of errors. But for your first performance in a starting team for Ireland against France, I think he kept his composure. He played very good rugby overall, very consistent performance.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what they were talking about with Jack Crowley, and I was reading some of the think pieces that came out, was it a world-class 10 performance that is gonna look back and say, yeah, that was a defining game for him? No, but if you're talking about a debut that you want, that is, if you're talking about a debut that you want, that is, he done his job. Like, is he going to improve? Yes, but for Jack Crowley, he was there to do his job. It was a perfect system game from him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I talked to Brett and Brevan previously, and I said it kind of feels like you don't need a world-class 10 for Ireland because the system is kind of built perfectly for them. If you look at the running patterns and stuff, he just needs to find his man. He doesn't need to do anything extravagant. Like I don't see necessarily the likes of a Damien McKenzie starting for Ireland because he's almost too extravagant, or Finn Russell even doesn't start for Ireland because he's almost too extravagant. They need a guy to keep it plain and simple, do his job, and that is exactly what he did. Now, moving on to just a quick word on France. I said on the preview, of course, Intermark and Dupont, massive losses. I mean, it's probably their 2 best players.
Yeah, agreed.
But I thought that would kind of like bring up a bit of hunger for the French players to say, listen, we want to take over that role where they are, because obviously they are the face of French rugby, and they still got massive names. If you think of the likes of a Cyril Baye, Muvaka, who had an absolutely brilliant World Cup, Antonio, Aldry still there,
Ramos,
all of those guys, and all of them just ghosted. I mean, even Luku's had a brilliant season for Bordeaux, and he was shocking. The guy that came from the bench, my apologies, don't know the name, he looked way better. Jallybird nowhere, ghosted. I can't think of a single player that had a good game, except for Gregory Aldry. I think he was very good. He was there, was absolute workhorse, but France should hang their heads in shame after a performance like that. Especially when you're playing home and this is kind of the decider, or most people would say it's a decider.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think when you hear the likes of Entomac and Dupont, they dominate the headlines, they dominate the media, they get all the sponsorship deals and brand, you name it, and the big money, and they're out of the side. This is a time where if I'm a player, I'm stepping up. I'm taking on a responsibility. I want to be people to say, right, no, I'm a guy that is going to take over. I'm going to carry hard. I'm going to get through work. Like you said, Gregory Aldridge, he got through work on the Friday, and it's a shame that he wasn't backed up by 2 or 3 other lads. Thomas Ramos, Damien Penno, they're senior players. They need to step. Gael Fuku, he has over 50 caps at France, man. He's pushing nearly 100, correct me if I'm wrong. So that's another guy that I thought should have stepped up. He should have been someone that the team could anchor around and get going. But another one that I thought was ghosted, was ghosted in his performance. So I think France,
Dante as well. We spoke about the matchup between Dante and Bundiaki. Bundiaki took him to the cleaners.
Yeah, and you look at someone like Bundiaki, or to talk about just to quickly talk upon Ireland. I don't think there's no answer for him right now in Northern Hemisphere rugby. But to stay with France, Dante missing, Thomas Ramos missing kicks that he was slotting all World Cup. Damien Penno, yes, excellent finish. We've become accustomed to that. I wouldn't expect anything less.
You couldn't catch a cold the game.
Couldn't catch a cold. Who, Damien Penno or Thomas Ramos?
Yeah, so many dropped balls. He's usually so secure under the high ball. Couldn't catch anything, except for that try. And at the end, when France were piling on a bit of pressure, I don't think he had a good game, especially not in the air. Too many errors for me. When you said he's the best winger in the world, I think he is definitely up there, top 3. For me, Mark Delia is a standout number 1 at the moment still. But just the quality of Penno just didn't come through for me at all in that game. Obviously, as always, he got his try. But just overall, we have to put respect on Ireland's name for spanking French. Hopefully the French can take some confidence from their little patches of positive play, especially when Thomas Ramos went into first receiver and Jalibert went into inside center. That's when Bill Barry came on for Dante, because Dante was ghosting. They looked a lot better. Of course, they still conceded the try, but the only thing in your mind then is attack, just to make up for the game.
Yeah, just chasing the game. And I think when the game's gone, it's weird. When the game's gone, and we'll talk about Wales and Scotland, but when the game's gone, I don't know what happens, but it almost liberates a team. We're losing anyway, so
I don't know if you realized, but we kind of purposefully ignored a point, and we're not going to talk about it. The South African in the game getting sent off. So we're not talking about Paul Willemse, because we only talk good about the South Africans. But the French kind of gave me the same vibe as New Zealand in the World Cup final, where when they got sent off to 14 men, they played a lot better. It just fueled the fire under the rest. It just gave me that vibes, but of course they lost by a country mile. Moving on to your country, we got Italy versus England. England winning 27-24. Of course, you have to put a caveat behind it. There was a consolation try at the end. Yeah. So I kind of always like to just minus that point, because game's gone. And you kind of butchered a bonus point try at the end. I don't know what happened there. You had a scrum, what was it, 5 meters out, and then just folded. Overall, are you happy with the performance? Are you happy with the result? I think it was pretty dull. I'm not gonna lie.
Right, one thing I'll not do, because English fans are criminal for this, and we're all doom and gloom. That performance is a team that's you can tell that they're finding their feet. Facts. It's a team that are just working out combinations, who's doing what and who's good at what. However, and there's a big however, a different set of circumstances, we lose to Italy. That has to be put there. In a different set of circumstances, we lose that game. Now, as I'm watching this, I'm trying. I will try and be as neutral and as objective as possible because I am.
No, be biased. This is we're very biased. You can be biased to your English team.
I look at that England team, and the one thing, and you will tell me this because we've poached your defensive coach, and we've now hired him, and you guys have mastered that blitz defense where you just fly up every one to you defend 13 men in the line, and then last man on the line, the edge, the wing or the 13 or the center is rushing up. And my biggest concern, and I can see it, and I can see the system. Now, my biggest concern is we're still learning that system. If Jack Crowley, Finn Russell, or Jalibert can get that ball over the top, we're in a world of pain. We're in a world of pain. And you look at some of the Italian tries, once they turned that corner and were able to get on the outside, they had men just running all sorts of lines. I think at one point for their second try, they had a 3-on-1, and it was just he had any options of two players to pick from. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, if we get this wrong, we could be on that. We could be on the receiving end of a 30-40 pointer this Six Nations. Overall, it was okay, not a classic, and I do think that our attack is so stale. Still, our attack is so stale. And I tweeted this and I said, it looks like England. When I watch our attack, you can tell the players know what they want to do. They just don't know how to do it. Does that make sense? You can see it in their body language. They know what they're trying to do here. They just don't know how to do
it. The thing is, like, you know how we just said Ireland don't need a world-class 10 because their structure is so brilliantly just to fit in, or the 10 just needs to fit in with the system. I think you need the likes of a Marcus Smith to bring some creativity to the game, something almost spontaneous, something out of the ordinary. Because I feel your attack is almost too structured. There's no surprises that comes with the attack. It just feels like brute force, throw a move that everyone can read, and then just the same thing over and over again. But to go to your defensive point, we spoke a bit on Instagram earlier today. Sorry, that's my light. This is Batman.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
Yeah, so the thing about defense like that is so high risk, but also high reward. If you get it right, you can nullify any attack. Now, we always thought that defense is the best we can have until we played New Zealand in the Rugby Championship at the Empty Smart in Auckland. Now, of course, didn't really expect to win that game because New Zealand haven't lost in Auckland since 1980, which is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
They spanked us in that game. I think the first 20 minutes, they already had 25 points on us. 25-0, hardly had the ball, and that was all Richie Mo'unga chipping over us. Bowden Barrett, ball in their own 22, just chipping it over us. And that's kind of where they exposed that defense, where we decided, listen, we have to switch it up. And I think we have a good balance in our defense because we have our wingers with extreme pace that can rush up on you. They are nippy. Because you can't compare the likes of a Cheslin Colby and Kurtley Arendse sprinting up on receivers to Elliot Daly and Freeman on the other wing. It's not the same thing. Of course, Freeman still has a bit of pace, but he's not got that explosive pace to just get there where it has to be. Faf de Klerk, not the quickest guy, but he knows how to get there at the right spot at the right time. And then, of course, you had Damian Willemse, who's also got extreme pace to sweep up behind them for if something was to go wrong. So I still think it's going to take time for England. I think they will get it right. I'm just talking about the defense because Felix Jones is a brilliant coach. He knows how to run the defense, and he's seen it work before. He took over from us when we were one of the most leaky defenses in the world and made us one of the most defensively solid teams. So because it's so high risk, high reward, it's just going to take time to go in. But I think the main issues with England is laying on getting points on the board.
Yeah,
to win the game against Italy by just scoring more penalties is kind of a bigger issue than it looks like at the moment because you need to score tries against these teams. That's a massive point you just lost there by not getting the bonus point.
Yep.
And we talk about England getting upset victories or the bonus points to actually win the series. Like if England was to somehow get a draw somehow against the likes of France or Ireland, they've got a real shout at winning the tournament.
Yeah.
But you need to take those extra points against Italy. For Italy to take away 2 points from you, for me, is almost a bit disgraceful. But you have to put respect on Italy's name.
I'm gonna say that Italy.
Benetton has been insane in the URC, but still you have to compare. It's Italy that lost by 70 points against New Zealand.
Let's. I think we need to cool down on the negative Italy chat, because what we're seeing now, we're getting the first generation of Italian players, and he said England players, but we're getting the first generation of Italian players who have grown up watching the Six Nations, who have grown up watching Italy get spanked, and then now these are the first generations of Italian players who have come up through that top 14, not top 14, Pro 14, now URC system, and you're starting to see the likes of, Andre Capuzzo, and there was another young lad that came off the bench who carried well.
The inside centre of them was amazing. Apologies, the name has slipped. I'll get it quickly. Yeah, I'll get it. I've got the team of the week.
It's
Menoncello.
Yeah, honorable Brex and Menoncello. Is it Menoncello?
Menoncello, yeah.
Menoncello. Brex and Menoncello.
Yeah.
Well, unbelievable in the centres. I'm like, hold on a minute. And Italy, they're getting better. It's very clear to see Italy aren't whipping boys, and they have all the pieces not to. They can. Italy Wales is going to be a very interesting game, because they can win that game, and I'm going to put my neck on the line. Italy Scotland is now a competitive game now. That is a game. Go on.
Italy is one of the most beautiful attacking teams to watch when they get it right. Like that's why people called for the potential upset against New Zealand. Obviously, they got battered in that game, but that was a fire New Zealand team. New Zealand said, "Listen, we're not taking this disrespect."
Yeah, it was different.
But overall, I think like the hype around England, just like people already talking about not necessarily winning the tournament, but being able to cause the upset victories. They should have had a stamp of authority on this game to say, listen, we are here to play. If you think about the statement that Ireland put out and the statement that England put out in their games, it's two very contrasting statements, and you have to take your hats off to Italy, because most guys would probably say they deserved to probably win the game after their first half performance.
They outscored us 3 tries to 2. They had the better attack. Like, they done the right thing. I think the only thing that killed them was discipline and that middle part of the second half between the 55th to the 75th minute before they got their consolation try was just like it was stopping. Like, no team really got going. Nobody really took the game by the scruff of his neck and said, we're doing this.
It's a bit of a dull affair for that 20-25 minutes in the middle of the game. But as you mentioned, that game between them and Scotland, when that comes, it's just pure attacking rugby.
Yeah.
Pure attacking rugby. It will be an exciting watch.
High scoring. I think that game, Scotland-Italy, will be a high scoring game. And I think Italy in a position now where they should be targeting 2 wins.
Yeah. I think they could be.
Yeah.
After, and we'll talk about it in a second, after that Wales-Scotland game, I think they could be licking their lips to say, listen, we could cause something here.
Yeah.
Just before we move on to that final game, what do you think the rest of the tournament holds for England after that one? Do you think they fix some stuff and get it right? There's a bad thing on the waiting, on the horizon.
I believe, and bear with me, because what I'll do is I really want to check the if we have Ireland home or away.
You have Ireland home, and next weekend you have England. You have Wales at home as well.
Now, if we have Ireland, because you have Ireland home, I think we will be competitive, but Ireland will do us. They're gonna win that game. Objectively speaking, I think they're gonna win that game. I think the only thing that if we win that game, we're winning on purely passion, like how Wales got back in that game. Because we're gonna touch onto that next. I am concerned about, again, we talk about, I don't know how long we've talked about this as an England fan. The centre channel is a problem for us. Like it's been a problem for us. When Tuolangi's not there, it's a problem. Are we playing Ollie Lawrence at 12 or 13? Fraser Dingwall, I don't know. Like compared to his peers, I don't know. Again, test match debut, we'll give him his grace. But I wasn't moved by his performance. There is room for improvement here for constructive criticism. So the center combination again is one of them places where we still haven't figured it out. Ethan Roots, I like a lot. Dirty work. He's just dirty work. Nothing there is. He's nuts and bolts. He's blunt force trauma. He's one direction and it's forward, attack and defense. I like that a lot. And the young boy is cunning himself. He's got a lot of pace. They're talking about him being the sort of Courtney Law successor. How we use him, how we develop him. The lad's 20. It's going to be crucial because if we treat him like we treat the younger lads here, he could be burnt out after 10 caps and we might never see him again, sort of thing. Or we can see him and he can chase down 100. We're really bad for that. I would say I've got England best case scenario, and it's probably dependent on how the Ireland game goes. We could probably do a snatch and grab a 2020 Wales sort of Six Nation win where, we should have won this, but, we're taking it. Realistic. I think that we're in that sort of territory where we can snatch and grab a Six Nations where we shouldn't have won. We're not the best team in the Northern Hemisphere, but we'll take it. It's a building block. I think best case scenario, more probable scenario, I'm probably saying second, probably third.
The thing is, just like I know I said this is the last thing on England, but it just came up in my mind as you were talking there. I just think like sometimes the selections feel a bit off. Like the one guy that I wish didn't retire is the best player in England at the moment. Like I've made it my mission to watch the Prem actually this season.
Watching what I'm saying. I know
Courtney Laws.
Best player in England by a country mile.
Not the best player in England. One of the best players in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
That
Courtney
guy
Laws.
is absolutely brilliant. He's a destruction. A destroyer of everything.
I don't know how at 34 he's found that level of performance. I just don't know. I've watched so much Northampton Saints rugby in the last 3 or 4 months, and I look at him. I'm like, I looked at him in the World Cup. It was between him and Ben for player of the tournament for England. He's taken that World Cup form, gone to Saints. He's the best player in the Premiership right now, pound for pound. He's the best player in the Premiership in a fantastic Northampton Saints side. I'm looking at this man. This is a man who's 34. Like they talk about, 1 iron retirement, maybe one more contract. Then he's gonna start thinking about hanging up his boots. If he said he's signed a deal at Breathe, I believe. He's gonna do. I think this probably is gonna be his last contract. If I was Steve Borthwick, I'd be calling him and say, "Look, I get it, but we need you because he's unbelievable right now."
I mean, John, it's like there's so many guys that I think is on brilliant form at the moment, and Steve Borthwick needs to find out a way to get these guys going. Because if you look at Murray Torja at the moment at Saracens, I think he's got some great form back. I think he's been playing very well.
Again. Yeah, Murray's hungry again. Yeah,
put in Courtney Laws again, Ben Earl, as you said, Ethan Roots. Those are brutal guys. Those guys can do your job, and then like you can maul people with your physicality. And then if you somehow could have gotten Arundel on the wing, Waboso on the other wing, and have
Marcus pace.
Hey.
Then you got lethal pace on the edge, on the outside.
Exactly. You've got that. That can do your rush defense that we were just talking about. You got Marcus Smith in the 10, and then you've got Exeter form Henry Slade, because Henry Slade is the best outside centre in the world if he plays for Exeter. I'm not kidding. That guy.
I'm not kidding.
And then it looks like he locked himself in jail when he plays for England.
Yeah, honestly. But again, I think that goes back to the point you touched on right at the start of when we started talking about England, is England's attack is so predictable, one-dimensional, so rigid that someone like Slade, when he goes to Exeter probably just tell him, just get your hands on the ball, make stuff happen. I think they have a general pattern of play, but when you have someone like Slade in your team, get your hands on the ball. You know if it's on, our system. But if it's on, I trust you. That is, and that as a player is very freeing. When you're that creative, he says, "Yep, we've got our system, we're going to play it. If it's not on, but if it's on, right, boys, we're going." And you can see it when he plays for Exeter. You look at him at 13 and think, Jesus Christ, this is like the best. This is like the best player in Europe at 13.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, England's attack looks at the moment like kind of how South Africa looked with Andre Pollard at the 10. Like, we played the kicking game, but then the backline couldn't really feed off Pollard because he wasn't that attacking, running rugby type of guy. But you saw how the attacking game switched with different teams when Mani played in that 10 jersey. It just looked so free-flowing, just like anything could happen. It's like you need Marcus Smith in that 10 jersey. I'm not obviously, like, English people would hype him up a lot more than we would because we're hyping up our own guys.
Yeah,
we still say Mani and stuff, but I can see the talent that Marcus Smith has and the flair that he brings. Just look at how brilliant he is for Harlequins because he has the keys to the city there. Yeah. But anyway, we probably need a move on.
Yeah, one more point. I think just for the 10, then we'll move on. It's interesting because over here, they are calling for Finn Smith now to start playing 10 because of how good Saints are. People are saying that Finn Smith plays a bit more. The rugby Finn Smith plays with Saints is more suited to test match rugby than Marcus Smith. Finn Smith's like 23, maybe 22, 23. So everyone's now like, Finn Smith is now the new shiny toy on the block, and it's like, well, forget Marcus, we've got Finn now. So it'll be interesting going forward how we develop that. But I think there's going to be.
Who do you start for the next game? Who do you start against Wales? Are you going for George Ford or Finn Smith?
I think you go
if Marcus Smith wasn't available.
Yeah, I think we'll probably go forward again. But depending on how that going goes, I would like to get Finn Smith into the game earlier, not just some throwaway, some garbage time minutes. I would like to get.
Yeah, so we'll just use this as a segue into the game between Wales and Scotland. What a game! So when we talk about the decision making between Finn Smith and George Ford, obviously George Ford a bit more structured, where Finn Smith kind of has some freedom. And if you look at the way Finn Russell dominated that first half, especially, you could say Finn Smith is the go-to. But I mean, I've been getting some slack for saying Finn Russell is overrated because just after I said he's overrated, now people have the misconception that overrated means a guy's bad. I'm just saying he's not the best 10 in the world like everyone else thinks he's the best 10 in the world.
No, he's there. No. Casual, he's there. He's there. He sits on the same table as Richie Mwanga. He's on the table.
No.
I know he is on the. If you're having a 10 discussion and you have to invite 4 guests, Finn Russell's there. Richie Mwanga's there. Andre Pollard is there. And
top four maybe.
Yeah,
top 4 maybe.
That means he's on the table.
But I think there's a big gap between 1 and 2 and the rest.
No, there isn't.
I think Richie Mwanga is clear of them all, and Intermark is up there.
Yeah,
those are 1 and 2.
That's your fault. They're your fault. If you're having,
I'm going Bowden Barrett. Bowden Barrett still.
Bowden Barrett's lost his first step, man.
Mani Lebock.
He's not on that table. Pollard's on that table.
And Finn Russell is almost the exact same player. Mani Lebock is just way quicker and has a step.
No, it's not. If you're having that table, it's Entermac. I'm not doing it in order, by the way. It's Entermac, Pollard, Russell, and Mwanga. That's your 4 that sit on that table. When you're talking about best 10 in the world, those are the 4 that sit on that table and have that discussion.
John, let's just have a little discussion, right? So Finn Russell, obviously, people were taking it way too serious when he said he's the Messi of Scotland. Like, it's just a joke. It's
a joke, man.
But you can't say you're the Messi of Scotland, right? And in the game after you say that, you put a cross-field team,
crazy.
intercepted and they score, while you're saying Mani's not at the table, while Mani played against Finn Russell, did a no-look cross-look kick for the try to secure the game.
No.
I'm taking Mani every day of the week.
No, he's not on that table. But let's talk about Wales versus Scotland.
Brilliant game.
brilliant game. What a game. Just literally a game of two halves. And I don't know what on earth Wales thought they were doing in the first half, because I looked at that. They had no set piece. The lineup was a disgrace for Test match Tier 1 rugby. I thought the Welsh lineup in the first half was one of the worst things I've seen like in a long time. Effort plays, like every single key metric you could measure a game by, Wales lost everything in the first half. Kick battle, air battle, lineouts, scrum, line chase. I was just like collisions.
Sounds like South Africa in that first half of the semi-final.
Say again?
Sounds like South Africa in that first half of the semi-final.
Let's stay focused.
I messaged you and I told you this is Gats magic about to happen. He just gets the best out of every single guy. Not the weird thing is, like, I kind of take more positives from this game if I was a Welsh fan than if I was a Scottish fan, because Scotland nearly blundered it, where Wales nearly made a historic comeback in this game. I think Wales were probably the worst team on planet Earth in that first half and looked like one of the best Welsh teams you could see in that second half. And it was just fueled on passion, because they have more acne on the field than they have caps. It's ridiculous.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, and something about the Welsh team, and there's no other team in Tier 1 rugby, North or Southern Hemisphere. Wales have this trump card, and it's just the passion multiplier, I call it. When it comes, there was tears in the anthems. I don't know what it is, but when Wales activate the passion multiplier, they can be on paper the worst team on paper. But when they
the inner Argentinian coming out there. Argentina is also the passion merchants.
Passion merchants. Like, I'm just like, you shouldn't win this game. Why are you doing it? Like, why are you you shouldn't be doing this, but it's just passion. Aaron Wainwright, bloody hell, that second half he gave us in the second half. Aaron Wainwright is the Welsh eight, like out and out. Like, Fadatel's done a lot of good things for Welsh rugby. He's been playing for Wales for over a decade now. But Aaron Wainwright now, that's his jersey now. And when I was looking at the Wales performance in the first half, casual, I couldn't believe they were giving Finn so much space. I was just like,
it's stupid. It was your defensive line would have worked perfectly for this one. You can't give Finn Russell that much time on the ball. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But then they got it right in the second half, because he had the ball on strings in the first half. In the second half, Scotland hardly had the ball.
Yeah. And there was a stat that came out between from I think after the 50th minute, Scotland conceded 14 penalties in a row.
Ridiculous.
14. You could be playing Tier 1 or level step 8 rugby, like regional counties 2, for all I care about. If you concede 14 penalties in a row, you should lose that game. Like, you should lose. Like, Test match teams are trying to concede 8 or less. That's a great. Most teams, if you concede 8 or less penalties in a game, they're happy. That's like a great game.
But they only had the one yellow card, right? 14 penalties should be more than one yellow card.
Yeah. But again, of course, like where they're giving them on the pitch and whatnot. Obviously, like the referee has to manage it, how he has to manage it, and how he sees fit. But in the second half, Wales do have, look, the Welsh passion is alive and well. I don't know where they go from here. I think the young lads need to just take that performance, be like, okay, we can do this. But and I think it was a good experience for them in terms of, this is Test match rugby. Like, you can get pumped and you will get embarrassed if you don't turn up. That there's no.
The thing that's like most impressive about it is that it's such a new team. Because if you think about like a few years ago, there was the likes of Alan Wynne-Jones. The main man, Jack Morgan, is injured now as well. No Dan Bigger. No, they didn't decide to take their most experienced guy, George North. No Leo Halfpenny. No Louis Zammit. So it's a totally new team. And I think they will take a lot of confidence from that game. And I'm not saying they're gonna cause an upset victory, but they could be licking their lips for that England game, because I'm not saying the upset is bound to happen this weekend. Of course, they're playing at Twickenham, which makes it a lot harder this coming weekend. But I think they will be up for the fight. I don't think. Obviously, it's a big rivalry as well, isn't it? They're in the UK,
and they nearly beat us. Remember, we have to remember that Welsh side. Okay, context a little bit different, but in the run up to the World Cup, they nearly stuffed us at home. So those young lads are going to have to activate that passion multiplier again and tell themselves, right, it's England. Anyone but England. If you can't turn up as a Welsh player playing against England, I don't know nothing else will, sort of thing.
Yeah. And we spoke earlier about like the best wingers. You mentioned Penno. I said Mark Telea. How long do you think this discussion continues to go without mentioning the likes of Duan van der Merwe? Because this guy just keeps on finding the try line, and he's not acting like a finisher. Like most people would probably see Will Jordan say he's up there, but he scores a lot of tries, which is just like finishing.
Open goals, yeah.
Duan van der Merwe scores tries from all over the place. He's not just finishing tries. He's bashing through people. Even when he doesn't score, he just like stamps through people. The guy is crazy.
Finn Russell described him. I believe it was Finn Russell described him. He's never seen a bloke so big move like a ballerina. Because he's such a balanced runner at his size. He really, like, the best way to describe it, I think he runs like a horse. Very like power, graceful, like it's graceful power. When you see that's a powerful bloke, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
he looks like a sprinter, like just everything in the body is just working together.
Yeah, you look at him and be like, he runs well. Like you just look at him and think that is just a great, powerful, good runner. Dude, how long do we keep him up? Look, if he stayed in South Africa, he's got a World Cup to his name. Facts. If he's in South Africa,
getting the team.
He does get in the team. I don't know if he's starting all the time. He probably he makes your World Cup squad.
Definitely makes the World Cup squad. It's just I don't like thinking about not having Colby, and I don't like thinking about not having Orense. So But all jokes aside, I think he's absolutely brilliant. He is probably the main guy at the moment for Scotland. Like most people talk about Finn Russell, fair enough. I mean, he is the conductor of the team. But I think Duan van der Merwe on the wing, Darcy Graham, one of the guys that keeps on going under the radar. Yeah. Of course, he didn't play, but Carl Steyn, another South African. I think Piers Kuman had a brilliant game at prop as well.
I think he did very well. He got through a lot of some of the carries he made as well. Real like proper hole punching carries. I'm thinking for a prop, he's doing very well. I was really impressed with his game in the loose.
Yeah. So overall, we've had a pretty long podcast for the people today. Thank you, John, for coming. Tell the people where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so the big account, Rugbypass. If you don't follow us, I don't know what you're doing. #1 rugby social media outlet channel in the world combined. Over 3 million followers across all social media platforms. So if you want to see my work in full form, then if you want to see me on a personal level and what I get up to, just typically I do play rugby at a somewhat high standard. Please follow me at John Okafor. So my first and second name _ on Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, that's where they can find me. And yeah.
Thanks, John. Thank you for coming on to Surface Unscripted. Of course, Brett Burns and Brevan actually just met them this weekend at Cape Town Tens, which was an absolute shit show. So they just landed home. So thank you, John, for coming on. Hopefully we can get you on a couple of more times throughout the Six Nations.
Absolutely.
Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, everyone.